is the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans by the fans, with Josh Taylor, Justin Smead, and Jason Eidsmoe. We're talking Padres, Chargers, and Aztec sports.
Got to hit it to the right place. And he hits it out to center. Right center. Blackman's got a long way to go. He's still going.
Off the wall.
And it is off the wall. It takes a funny hop. Kemp is rounding second. He's heading to third. And Matt Kemp into third base with a triple and the first cycle in the history of the San Diego Padres.
He will hand it off. Tomlinson plows his way towards the goal line. LaDainian Tomlinson, one step closer to football immortality. Tomlinson has tied the single-season record. And the handoff to Tomlinson. Left side, and he will gallop into the end zone. Charger fans are witnesses to history.
Pope thought about it. Now steps up. And the freshman hits the jumper at the buzzer.
Well, this kid is some prospect. Big time length, big time game.
Pope straightaway three. Count it. Malik Pope. Pope. Off classic good. On the other end, Joel doesn't miss that one. Shepard alley-oop to Pope. He got up there. Oh, wow.
It's time to let your voice be heard.
All right, it's Wednesday. It's 7 o'clock. That means, of course, it's time for the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for the fans by the fans. First of all, I want to thank everybody who's decided to mute Joe Buck. Joe Buck sucks anyways. And listen to our podcast while you're watching the 7th game of the World Series. I'm Jason Eidsmoe, joined today by the long-lost Jake Hefner. Jake, how's it going, man?
He's back, baby.
He's back, baby. Absolutely. Jake Hefner, of course, from boltbeat.com. You can follow him at Jake T. Hefner. We're also joined by one of the original sports junkies, now with Aztecs Hoops Nation, Mike Maciejewski, the villain. How's it going, Mike?
It's great, man. Can't wait, man. Got a lot of Ovaltine served up for everybody.
And you can follow him at Mikey_AHN. He's the owner and chief article writer at Aztecs Hoops Nation.
And lead of Ovaltine in San Diego.
Yes. and the last Ovaltine distributor in San Diego. Well, let's get right into it. You know, the Chargers now are 3-5. They lost to the Denver Broncos 27-19. The first thing I'm going to ask both of you guys, Mikey, you're going to have to pretend like you're a Charger fan right now.
Okay, I'll try.
3 games ago, I tell you that we have to face Denver, Atlanta, and Denver. Who wouldn't have taken 2 out of 3 games there? 2 wins out of 3. You know, it's not a bad stretch in a 3-game stretch. You know, I know we would have liked to have won all 3 of them, but 2 out of 3 is not bad. What do you think about that, Jake?
Well, I mean, I think that before that stretch, you know, I think we looked at 2 out of 3 is very optimistic. The problem is that we didn't anticipate the rest of the AFC West to keep on winning. So even when you look at a 3-5 record, even where you look where we are as far as, you know, hey, be a little bit more optimistic. You know, you took 2 out of 3, 2 or more on the road against, you know, 2 teams out of 3 games that were very highly touted for both their offense and their defense. So yeah, it's an optimistic standpoint when you know, basically put everything underneath a microscope for those 3 games. But in the rest of the aspects of everything, the rest of the division is still 2 or 3 games ahead of you. You know, the rest of the division hasn't gotten a chance to beat up on themselves yet, and that's just unfortunate. So you're just in a hole, and now you just really plugged yourself into a corner to where every single game from the rest of the season really matters if you want any chance at all of getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, it does. Apparently somebody loaned Mikey a San Diego Chargers shirt because he's wearing one today, by the way. Mikey, 2 wins out of 3. I mean, do you think that, you know, 3 games ago that would have been fine. You would have accepted that. Are you still pretty happy with the results from the last 3 games?
Yeah, I saw you tweet that out. I think it was Sunday after the game, and I thought, you know what? Jason brings up a great point for once. You know, no, it is, and I didn't expect them to beat Denver at home, and obviously to beat Atlanta. If I had been able to give my prediction, it would have been wildly the opposite way. But those are impressive, and you just kind of hoped, they won the first two, so you're hoping they would beat Denver over there, because Denver offensively obviously struggles. Obviously defensively they're a great team, but the Chargers defense is coming along, doing better as well. So you were hoping to get that one, but like Jake said, it's tough because I think you're 1-3 in the division right now, if I'm correct. And you still have the Chiefs, you still have the Raiders, and it's going to be tough to catch up to those guys because they keep winning. Those teams keep winning ahead of you.
They do keep winning, and that does suck because we've already lost to all of them now. We've lost at least one game to all of them. We beat the Broncos once. We have a chance. We still get to play the Chiefs. We still get to play the Raiders. We have to win both of them just to split in our division, which makes things real tough. And that's what we like to do every year, by the way. We like to make it damn near impossible to make the playoffs, and then we make a run at it and try and do it. Getting into the Broncos game, a few things that, a few overall things that I saw that kind of I wish had gone differently. Everybody can sit there and talk about, when you get to the goal line, you should run the ball. And I hate second-guessing the coach, and I hate second-guessing the calling. But that's obvious to me. Anytime you have a first and goal inside the 5, I always say run it 4 times. You're going to get at least a yard on each play. I was pretty disappointed with those play calls. Like I said, I hate to second guess the coaching or the play calling, but it was pretty it was pretty frustrating to watch that. What were your thoughts, Jake, when they kept throwing the ball and they weren't making any progress there?
I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was dumbfoundedness to me, considering the fact of how they got to the goal line situation in the first place. Melvin Gordon was actually starting to break off some nice runs. And they exploited the weakness of the Denver game that they exploited in the first game of matchup this year. And Melvin was running for clips of 5, 3. He had a run of 15. You were just really, your offensive line was starting to take advantage right there in the trenches of the Denver Broncos front 7, which is not as good as it used to be a year ago. And you think you got the ball on the 2-yard line, and with Melvin Gordon been the first running back to run for over 100 yards against this defense in over a year. The last person to do it was Jamal Charles before that, back in 2015. You mean to tell me that Melvin Gordon can't get 1 or 2 yards in 4 downs? You can't even put Derek Watt, your fullback, which is what you've invested in him for, to put him in goal line situations? I couldn't believe it. And if, like you said, we don't want to, we don't like to criticize the coach, and we've been in this type of situation before. In Washington a couple years ago, we were literally this close, and we did 4 downs, and it just didn't end up going our way, and we criticized North Turner for it. But when you hear Matt Slauson come out and talk about what the reaction of the rest of the players as well as Phillip Rivers was when they keep getting calls to pass in the huddle and being so discouraged, our opinion no longer matters. It really doesn't. When you hear about players' reaction like that to coaching decisions, and this is not all on Mike McCoy, we can't disregard Ken Wisenhunt in this.
Thank you.
Because some of his decision-making in this definitely holds responsibility for sure. So, I mean, you take the players' reaction as far as what they felt about the play calling. Again, would that have made a difference in the game? Who knows? Because we'd still have to end up scoring the 2-point conversion after it anyways. But regardless, in that type of situational football, which teams practice over and over and over again on a weekly basis, you would have thought that they would be able to come to an easy decision on what play to run to try and give themselves the best chance to win.
I agree. Mikey, what were your thoughts when they kept throwing the ball on first and goal, all the way through 4th and goal?
It was dumbfounding. I actually thought before that Wisenhunt had called a pretty good game. I felt they were doing well, and obviously it was dumbfounding. It dumbfounded me, and there's one thing I will disagree with you guys. I can definitely, criticize the coaching on this one, and I can totally second guess on it, and I like doing it. Don't get me wrong, I love doing it, but it's just one of those things. It's something, I wasn't surprised. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I was not surprised, and only because as a Charger fan, I'm used to these kind of things. Go ahead.
A couple of things about that Jake kind of alluded to it. It seemed like we made we made our best yardage. We were having the most success when Rivers was lined up under center on that whole drive. Every time we went into the shotgun, it didn't work out. Every time he lined up under center, whether it was a run or a pass, those were the most successful plays. The other thing that I wanted to mention is there's a lot of people, I know I sit here and I defend Phillip Rivers a lot, against the haters, against Mike, against Hal. One of the things people were saying is, why didn't he audible out of that? And I was listening to Nick Hardwick this week, and he made a really, really good point. He said it wasn't just the play calls that were wrong. It was the personnel he had in there. They had personnel you couldn't run, especially the defense Denver was playing. Denver was running an all-out blitz and just playing man-to-man. There was no way that Phillip could have audibled to a run that would have been successful. The only thing he could have done was throw the ball and hope somebody sprung open. It was just a bad series. Let's be honest. It was a bad series. And it capped off a really poor day for the offense. Besides that first 75 or 85-yard drive that when we first got the ball, the offense pretty much cost us this game. And all those fans out there that are screaming we need to be more aggressive, we need to take more chances, I would say we would have won that game if we played more conservative. We needed to make them beat us, and we didn't. We just kept handing them the ball, and it was very frustrating to me because when you're playing a team like that, punting is not a bad option, and it seemed like we tried to force too many passes, and we tried to force too many things to happen instead of letting our defense go out there and play and making them earn it. That was very, very frustrating to me. Jake, do you think that we maybe weren't conservative enough?
I don't know so much about the fact of maybe being conservative enough. I mean, you take the first couple of series out of halftime when you've got the ball. You would expect them to come out and take a very aggressive approach. And I don't think that it was a situation where, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you talk about, possibly blaming Phillip Rivers and not wanting to blame Phillip Rivers. I'm not blaming Phillip Rivers in any stretch of the imagination, but let's call a spade here. Phillip Rivers was pressured on 61% of all of his dropbacks, the most pressure that Denver has gotten to any quarterback this year. I'm sure we're going to talk about the offensive line here in a little bit, but at the same time, you start off the second half by turning the ball over twice. That's just not how you do it. I mean, you basically spotted the Denver Broncos 14 points in this game. If you look at what the defense did to hold them, your defense did enough to win the game. It was your offense that just absolutely killed you on being ineffective, not being able to be consistent, horrible on third down offensive series. And again, you turn the ball over, and that's the MO of any team in the league. Whoever wins the turnover battle, 90% of the time, they're going to win the game. And the Denver Broncos made more plays than the Chargers did. And when it came down to, every single chance that the Chargers got, which they got a lot more opportunities than the Broncos did in terms of scoring, Chargers couldn't capitalize.
Yeah, that's the truth. Mikey, do you think that that maybe they should have tried to play a little bit more conservative and maybe make Denver? You're shaking your head. Go ahead and tell me what you think.
No, I'm not. I'm giving you this face. Yeah, don't even look at me, Jason. Of course not. Of course not. How dare you? I mean, if you listen to the show, I'm so anti-conservative play calling.
I know you are.
No, I feel like the one thing is you kind of had to do that, hoping that your defense would step up. I mean, honestly, the defense played very well. Like I even when Devontae Booker fumbled in the red zone right by the goal line. I don't know why. I felt very confident the defense was going to stop them. They kept coming through. Same way when we got the pick six. It seemed like the defense was getting their pressure on. So you got to take. You can't play defensively and hope to outlast the opponent. It seems like that would be another recipe for a loss. It's one of those things that the offensive line has been an issue. I mean, I'm a positive guy, I'm a positive Patty, so I look at it as Phillip Rivers was not pressured 39% of the time, so that's a good thing. but in all seriousness, I think it's just really, really the line, and I think we're going to be talking about a certain gentleman on the line whose play has really stood out in a negative way.
Yeah, we'll get to the line too. I did want to talk about the wide receivers a little bit, because part of the problem is some of the problem that we had last year. It did seem, I know that he was pressured, but it didn't seem like wide receivers were really getting open for him. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, we've talked about the injuries of the guys that we've lost. But the guys that we have left are both battling knee injuries too. And I think it was pretty apparent that Benjamin and Tyrell Williams both being hurt cost us a little bit, playing against a really, really good Denver defense. And I'm concerned about that. I know that every time somebody pops a ligament or pops a tendon, everybody screams about the training staff, and in my opinion, training staff's not going to be able to stop that. But I do have a problem when you see a guy like Jatavis Brown. He goes down for 1 to 3 weeks, and I don't know if it's just me, if this is the way it seems to me, but every time you hear somebody on the Chargers that has like an injury that most people get back to within 1 to 3 weeks, it takes 2 to 6 for Chargers. It seems like the recovery time for our team is so much slower than everybody else, and that's what makes me worry about our training staff a little bit. Should we be worried about our wide? Let's stick with the wide receivers right now, Jake. Should we be worried about these knee injuries with the wide receivers that are so-called healthy guys, the guys that are playing? Uh-oh, Jake, are you there? Oh, boy. Okay, well.
I'm here.
Oh, there he is. Oh. There he is. Gotcha.
Stupid button that's called MUTE.
Jake was on a throne, that's why.
I was having a great conversation with myself for about 20 seconds.
Should we be worried about these injuries with our wide receivers that are our so-called healthy guys?
Well, yeah. I mean, we've talked about this question on a number of different positions. We'll touch on it with the inside linebackers. It's no longer the next man up. It's who's left.
Yeah.
I mean, you get to this point, it's tough. You're going to have possibly Dontrell Inman being your primary wide receiver. I mean, this is nasty. When the Chargers start having to bring in free agents just off the street, which we've seen done before, and Phillip being able to prosper with them. Obviously, you look at a Denario Alexander situation from the past.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, this is you want to make it any tougher than it has already been on the San Diego Chargers as far as what they're battling against and what it is that they're trying to do, especially from Phillip's standpoint, to say, hey, we need this one. You're putting them in the toughest situation possible in order to get a W. So, yeah, it's definitely concerning. It's definitely concerning for the fact of, just how it really affects this offense and what the offense is really going to, or what Phillip Rivers specifically is going to have to lean to. It's going to become, more of the Hunter Henry and Melvin Gordon show, to be perfectly honest. That's how I see it.
Mikey, do you think that do you have concerns about the injury status from the wide receivers that we have? We already know who we've lost, and we understand that. But moving forward from now, do you worry about Phillip Rivers not having anybody to throw to?
Well, I mean, no, obviously not. But, I mean, you did bring up a good point about, we try to blame the training staff. And I really I just really want to touch on that, because I just feel like, I felt like we had a different training staff before, and this wasn't occurring. Like, I feel like a couple years ago, I remember there being an article about how they were changing training staffs, and I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. Like I said, it can't just be bad luck, and like you said, I see it too, Jason. I see it. Guy gets a hangnail, is out for 2 weeks. You know, so it's got to be something. It's got to be something, and the receivers will do fine. Phillip's going to throw to them, but I agree. I mean, it's got to be the Melvin Gordon show, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think with the way his team is set up, that would actually be a good thing.
Yeah, and I think that a team like the Broncos, they did what they could to shut down Hunter Henry, which worked just fine. Melvin Gordon got a couple passes out of the backfield, but he didn't. He didn't catch a lot of balls, and I think that they just basically dared our wide receivers to beat them, and we couldn't. Whether or not, and that's Bolt Pride moving in the chat room. He's wondering why the wide receivers can't get open, and I think part of it is, we have our third wide receiver as our 1, and our 4th as our 2. Everybody stepped up, and then our current 1 and 2 are, the guys who have moved up are injured right now, which makes things even tougher, for them to get open, and hopeful, and not only that, but we played against a damn good team. Denver has a really good defense. So all of that combined just worked out very, very poorly. Another thing, let's go ahead and move on to the offensive line. Joe Barksdale has had a couple games to forget. I don't want to hate on anybody, and he's out there and he's certainly trying. But is this what we have to look forward to, Jake, or is this just he's just played against a couple defensive ends that have really got the best of him?
Well, I mean, look, we actually weren't expecting DeMarcus Ware to come back this week. That was kind of a very late surprise. I don't think the Chargers were ready for it. I don't think the offensive line was ready for it. And when you bring him back into the lineup, it obviously showed. It does not matter how old DeMarcus Ware is. He can still get to the quarterback. And when you combine that with Von Miller, and when you combine that with Shane Ray, who was another first-round pick of theirs from a couple years ago, who has been doing very well in DeMarcus Ware's absence, this is still the best outside linebacking unit in the National Football League. I don't care what anybody says. So any offensive line is going to have their troubles. That being said, doing things that you can't control, making mistakes that you can control, as in getting 2 consecutive penalties for lining up incorrectly and basically trying to cheat in order to give yourself leverage to handle a pass rusher better on consecutive plays, mind you.
Right.
And talk about the wide receivers getting open. On the first penalty that Barksdale got, Tyrell Williams went in a great slant pattern that he caught and ended up converting for a first down that was called back because of Barksdale's penalty.
Yes.
2 penalties from Barksdale later, then you turn the ball over. It was a nasty series. And, flipping over to the other side of the offensive line, in my opinion, and I hate to say this right now, but this is how I feel in Week 8, and this is what I've seen not only just in this last season or through the first 8 games of this year, but the last couple seasons. The King Dunlap project is officially done. I'm sorry. Phillip Rivers cannot accurately throw the ball when he has to run to the outside to his right because King Dunlap can't protect his blind side. It just can't work anymore. It is obvious that he is continuously getting beat left and right. And at the most important part of the offensive line to protect your quarterback, the performance was just absolutely horrendous from both tackle positions. Yes, definitely games that you want to forget for each of them. But if we're going to put a stamp on it, and I had my choice as far as which offensive lineman I'm keeping permanently, or at least for the short-term future, it's Joe Barksdale. King Dunlap has to go, and you have to get a serviceable left tackle that can protect your quarterback from now on.
Wow. I haven't really heard that much anger towards King Dunlap this season, to be honest with you. That's interesting coming from you. I know that Joe Barksdale is the one that everybody's kind of been angry with. He's the one that everybody hears the penalties being called on. But I do agree with you in the sense that, King Dunlap, the first season he came in here, played really, really well, and he hasn't been able to recapture that. That's for sure. All in all, the offensive line, against a pretty good defense, I thought they had a decent day, from the run side of the ball, like you had mentioned, first 100-yard gain rushing game since 2014 or whatever. Nothing big. It wasn't like they were gashing, except on that one last drive. It seemed like Gordon was able to get 5 yards here, 7 yards here, 8 yards here, 15 yards here. It looked like they were starting to kind of find their groove. Run blocking, I'm not as disappointed, but I think that the pass blocking is being exposed a little bit, like you said, on the outside, and I think a lot of that goes back to our wide receivers. I think them not being able to get open is really, really affecting us on the offensive side of the ball, and it's a shame too because our defense, besides the fact that nobody on our goddamn defense can catch the ball, how many interceptions did we drop? 3 or 4 at least.
Yeah.
Very, very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. From a defensive side of the ball that played extremely well. They could hold their heads high after that game. I thought that they played well. It's really sad that our offense can't get going with the defense playing as well as they are. Before we even talk about the defense, though, I want to talk about the special teams. The special teams this year has been absolutely horrendous, I think. Absolutely horrendous, from the punts earlier in the season to, the botched hold on the game-tying field goal. Against the Broncos, special teams cost us 5 points. They missed a makeable 45-yard field goal. They got an extra point blocked, and then we had to go for 2 to make up for that, which we did not make. Jake, what's your what's your overall opinion on how the special teams has played, not only in the last game but this whole season? And if you agree with me, is it going to get better, or is this just what we have to look forward to for the rest of the year?
I'm not too sure. The most significant spots where we've really called out a lot of criticism has been in the kick return and punt return department. And obviously the decision was made to finally switch Travis Benjamin out from the returner position and put Dexter McCluster in. Because I thought, personally, if it wasn't for, we're talking a couple of inches, if you're talking about our coverage unit, I think our coverage unit does fine. That was a great play by Stuckey that almost put that ball on the 1 yard line against Denver. It wasn't for Jatavis Brown's toes or toenail, and that would have been pretty damn close to, putting their backs up against the wall in their own end zone. Coverage unit, I think it's just fine as if we're breaking down the special teams. But actual offense, as far as moving the ball down the field, trying to get some positive return yardage, it's horrible. I don't understand what is happening to this coverage unit when it comes to blocking men out. We can always get ahead of people for some reason when we kick the ball, but when we're trying to return the ball, for some reason, it doesn't work. And when it comes to, of course, the debacle that we had a couple weeks ago in Oakland, there's nothing really else you can say about that. You can't really blame the special teams coaching for that aspect.
Right.
But I've never been a big fan of the special teams coach that we brought over. I know he was part of Ken Wisenhunt's unit when he was in Tennessee, and I wasn't too thrilled about that to begin with. One, because I knew where the Titans special teams had rated a couple years previously to that. And so I didn't really know what to expect. But when you think about it couldn't have been any worse from the way that our special teams performed last year. And it just seems to be maybe not as bad, but pretty damn close to some of the results that we got. So hopefully, we've said it now the last couple of years, it's unfortunate, but you may be looking at another improvement that needs to be made or another overhaul in special teams that we're going to need to concentrate in the offseason, because these type of mistakes, unfortunately, are going to linger for the rest of the year, and you're going to look back and say, hey, if we could have done one thing here or one thing here, it may have been a huge difference in the game.
Yeah, I actually think the special teams unit has cost us a couple wins this year overall. Mikey, special teams overall, are you as disappointed as I am? Do you think that I'm overblowing that? What's your thoughts on special teams?
Yeah, I'm not overly disappointed. Again, thinking about where we were last year, it's going to take some time to build that unit up. And, again, also when you keep losing players and you're forced to put guys that are second, third stringers that may have been on special teams onto the starting rotations, you're not going to have your first choices out there on special teams too. So everybody gets affected with all these injuries happening. And a lot of the injuries that we have are second and third string guys that, could have been contributors on special teams. So that's also an issue. Yeah,
I don't know. Special teams, you shouldn't even be talking about them, but for some reason seems like they've been pretty poor. Like a Bull Pride movement in the chat room. Seems like special teams have been bad for a few years now, and I agree with them. I think we got spoiled a little bit. Our special teams were always so good, and they've just been playing really, really poor. And Mikey, injuries might have something to do with it. You're right. You got regular special teams guys now are starting, and you've got other guys stepping in, and maybe they're not able to do the same job. Speaking of injuries in the defense, which has been playing stellar, Jake, who's going to be playing middle linebacker for us this week? Jatavis Brown is out for 1 to 17 weeks, depending on what our training staff can do. Denzel Perriman's got the shoulder injury. Not only that, but he's battling now a hamstring. He might be out. Are we looking at Corey Toomer and Josh Perry starting this week, possibly against the Titans?
What's Donnie Edwards up to? We got his number on. What can we do to bring him back?
Yeah, Donald Butler's still on the Dolphins, right? Maybe we could bring him back.
I would take Donnie Edwards over Donald Butler right now.
So
clear.
So are we looking at Corey Toomer, who, by the way, has been a bright spot, I thought. From somebody who was brought in off the scrap heap, I've been pretty happy with the way he's played. But we got Corey Toomer. We got Josh Perry. Who else? I mean, there's got to be somebody else on the team that could be playing middle linebacker. Are they thinking about maybe bouncing Torek Williams inside? Or who knows, maybe Brandon Meebank can step up and take 3 steps back and play middle linebacker.
Oh, sure.
What are we looking at here at middle linebacker?
No, because literally there is no depth. They're going to have Kyle, because you have a Tauchu back this week. Now you're going to rotate Kyle Emanuel in the inside linebacker position. So you're going to have, hopefully, 3 middle linebackers, and hopefully it stays that way throughout the duration of the game. I know the mayor's probably very excited about this because it's his boy, Josh Perry, that he finally gets to see in a starting role. So I know he's very excited about this type of opportunity for him. But yeah, I mean, we're going to be extremely weak in the middle. And if anybody's been paying attention to the way that Tennessee runs the ball with the 2 running backs that they got,
yes, this
is going to be an area of the defense that the Tennessee Titans are going to look to exploit dramatically. And yeah, I mean, it's just like you said, Toomer, hey, he's made a couple plays here and there, and some of them have actually been, game-changing plays. It's been impressive for a guy who's just coming off the street, and be able to combine with this defense already. And Josh Perry, he's really made his mark more on special teams than anything else. So it's definitely a question mark. There's not really much that you could say as far as the expectation to have for this team. But this would not be one of the areas that you're saying that has to, it's just going to be difficult. And you have Delaney Walker coming across the field, which is definitely going to exploit those 2 people as well. So Tennessee's game plan is, in my opinion, is strictly going to be focused on taking these 2 guys and definitely making a run for their money and making it difficult for our defense over the middle. So, hopefully the other 9 players that are on defense can shore up on where they're going to be making mistakes, because there will be some.
Yeah, I agree, and we'll actually be breaking that down a little bit more on Sunday morning when we talk about the Chargers versus the Titans. Jake, hey Mikey, I heard Jake earlier today exchanging with somebody on what his thoughts were on how Melvin Ingram's played. I know that Joey Bosa, since he's come, he's played fantastic. Joey Bosa looked like he was having another really, really solid game, causing trouble in the backfield. Melvin Ingram seems like he's been stepping up and making plays. Are you happy with what we've got out of Melvin Ingram, or do you think he takes too many plays off?
He's making big plays. I feel his consistency is getting a little bit better, but still not where it needs to be. Especially when you have Bosa looking like a stud almost every play. Automatically my eyes are drawn to him. So, again, he got the game the option this last year. I don't know where his future lies here with the Chargers, but it's so hard to judge, especially when you have a rookie pretty much shining the whole defensive line, with this play.
I will come to the defense a little bit before we let Jake get in here and talk about Ingram. I will come to Ingram's defense in the sense that they're asking him to do a little bit more. He is dropping back into coverage. You see him covering linebackers. You see him covering running backs out of the backfield. Bosa's not asked to do any of that stuff. Bosa said, he's like an animal. They just say, ready, set, go, find the football, and that's what he does. They are asking Melvin Ingram to do a little bit more. Melvin Ingram is never going to be, the best, defensive pass rusher in all the league. He just isn't. He's not going to but I'm actually pretty happy with where he's come. The beginning of his career, he started out having a lot of injuries. Last couple of years, he's stayed relatively healthy. I'm happy with the production we're getting from him. I'd like to see them re-sign him. Jake, what was your overall thoughts on Melvin Ingram so far?
Well, I mean, I think he's looked good in spite of Bosa. I think for the fact that there has been another pass rusher opposite of him to take the focus off of double teams from himself, that he's been able to capitalize on that. And that's definitely something that he hasn't had for the entire duration that he's been with this unit. So it's good to see it from that standpoint. And, I still, he was our league, or not our league, but our team leading sack leader, last year, albeit, you look at a couple sacks that he had, maybe just padded the stats a little bit and made it seem a little bit better than it actually was. So, for me, again, time will tell. But, I mean, he's definitely doing better since Bosa's arrived. But he may just be the Robin to Bosa's Batman type of aspect, if you look at it that way. And it's kind of just it's more of a testament to how defenses are focusing on Bosa now, and for the fact that Melvin Ingram's now been in the league for 4 years and Bosa's been in the league for 4 or 5 games. I mean, that's a real testament as to who people have to focus on. And when you break it down in that type of circumstance, you can really see where the value lies on this defense and who it is to watch out for when it comes to pass rushing.
Hey, Mikey, we were so excited when Dexter McCluster was signed. We were looking for him to be able to step in and take over that role that Danny Woodhead filled when Danny Woodhead was, before he hurt himself. He's come in, and it seems like his play each week diminishes a little bit more, and he hardly sees the field anymore. A couple games ago, the one time he did see the field, he tipped the ball into the other. You can make the argument it was a bad pass, whatever. Bottom line is it went off of his hands onto the other team, into the other team's hands. Are you do you know why? Do you have a reason why McCluster just has not seemed to really find his groove in this offense? And I'm personally a little bit disappointed. I was expecting a little bit more out of him.
Yeah. Let's just clarify. You guys were excited about McCluster.
Yeah,
I was not. But no, I mean, a couple reasons. McCluster seems to me like a smaller back, as in like not as sturdy as Woodhead. I mean, Woodhead kind of has that better, I think, in a better build. Also, he may be struggling with kind of like with what James Jones had trouble with the offense. Picking it up. So I don't know, but. I mean, he really hasn't shown that explosiveness, and it's seeming to me that you're almost better off just keeping Melvin Gordon there, who may not have the explosiveness that McCluster has, but it's reliable. He's showing that he has good, decent hands out of the backfield, and he's doing well with some blocking. So it almost feels like just Gordon's just the better option overall.
Yeah, Gordon has really stepped up, and he's started to be a lot more dynamic as a running back. But is McCluster having trouble picking up our offensive scheme, Jake, or is there another reason why he's not out on the field more?
No, I just think he's just being underutilized. I don't understand what's happening or what type of situational football is not including him, because he should know the system. He played in Ken Whisenhunt's system. He should be familiar with this entire playbook. With a quarterback like Phillip Rivers, it should make things actually a lot easier. So I honestly just believe that he's being underutilized in this offense. And when he has gotten his chances out there, he just unfortunately hasn't capitalized. And maybe for the fact that is the case, that the coaches have all of a sudden lost confidence in him. Not that he can't grasp the playbook, but I mean, you go back to the first game that he was with this team, he could have easily had a touchdown if the ball just wasn't overthrown a little bit in the end zone. I mean, We'd be talking about a completely different story here. Or like you said, ball bounces off his hands and it goes into the defender's hands. So it may just be a simple case as no different as it would be when Melvin Gordon was fumbling too much a year ago and the offensive coach is not having enough confidence in him to continue to run the ball without turning the ball over. This could literally be just a confidence issue that the coaches have comfortability with him, possibly the rest of the offense having comfortability with him. So I don't think it's an aspect of McCluster not being able to pick up the playbook. I think it's the aspect of the players around him as well as the coaches not having the confidence that they can utilize him properly in the offense at that particular time.
That's a good call because it does seem kind of weird why it seems like when he first got here, we used him more, and we seem to use him less and less and less. I'm wondering also if there is any sort of an injury with him. I know that he had a little bit of a hamstring problem, and maybe they're just kind of been keeping quiet about that. But maybe that's probably maybe that's a possibility why they haven't got him in as much. Now, season's halfway over. Chargers are 3-5. We all would have liked for them to be 5-3 or 8-0 or whatever we all thought that they'd be by now. There is some good news, though. We're going to take the positive Patty look at this.
I can't wait to hear this.
The second half of the schedule is much easier than the first half of the schedule.
Oh, God.
Still got to play the teams. Still got to beat the teams. But there are a lot. The teams that we're playing in the second half are much what's the word here? And they're just not as good as the teams I think that we played in the first half. Titans, very beatable. Dolphins, very beatable. Texans, very beatable. Bucks, very beatable. Panthers, Raiders, and then we got Cleveland, of course, and the Chiefs. Panthers, Raiders, and the Chiefs are the 4 games of the second half that are not gimmies. The rest of those are gimmies to me. Now, the Chargers have shown that they could lose to anybody. We know that. This is the NFL. Any team can lose to anybody anyways. But I think we got 4 games that we should absolutely win, and then 4 games that we're going to be fighting hard. I don't see why, with us being 3-5, we still can't finish 10-6 or 9-7. I'm sure that you're probably snickering right now, Jake, and I'm looking at Mike, and I expected to see him laughing, but he's not laughing yet. He's smiling though. Jake, do you think that we can win 7 of 8 games in the second half of the season?
We can, but
will we? How about that?
We will.
Okay, there we go.
I don't think we will. And again, it's not that I don't have confidence in this team. Not that I don't have faith in this team. I would love to, but you look at the MO of what this team's all about. And I know that we can't make injury excuses or anything like that, but just if this whole streak of injuries continues the way it has here over these first couple of weeks, you reach a point to where, like you said, who do you have left that can really just help this team?
Yeah.
It just becomes so difficult, and I don't care if it's Tom Brady or the Patriots back there. If they're getting hit with this rash of injuries, there's no way that they are the number 1 team in the league again. I don't care about the coaching aspect. You still have to have the right type of personnel. Everything that you said, Jason, is absolute fact as far as the schedule goes. Definitely winnable games over these next 8 weeks. It's probably in the top 3 of winning percentages as far as the easiest remaining schedule that's on the league. I think the Chargers entered the season with the 3rd easiest schedule overall. And, what you have over the next couple of weeks, obviously it's good if you can get, 2 wins these next couple of weeks and then get a bye and then hopefully get some people nice and rested, get them back. You can make a push for those last 6 games. But still, this to me is just a what have you done for me lately type of situation to where the Chargers beat the Chargers. And it's not the opposite teams beating the Chargers. So until I stop seeing that type of MO, then I will have the confidence that this team can go on a streak and finish. But again, you've now put yourself up against a wall for how you've started. And the AFC West, the 3 other teams are off to a great start. So you have to now rely on them to lose. The destiny is no longer in your hands to make the playoffs, if that's what anybody's thinking for this year. Yeah. You now have to rely on fate of other teams to start losing in order to even out the pile and possibly make it closer for you to get a wild card spot.
Right, and all they can do right now is win. They can just keep winning, or they can start winning, and hope that those things that those other things work themselves out. You said something that makes me. I have another thing I want to transition to, but I want to give Mikey a chance to comment on the second half of the season. We got four easily winnable games and 4 more difficult games. Do you think the second half of the schedule is a little bit more favorable than the first half of the schedule? Do you see anything different happening, or do you see the same old in the second half of the season?
I don't know how much easier it is, because I really felt like, you guys felt it too, that this team should be better off than what they are right now. And I look at it, the Titans, DeMarco Murray's playing awesome there. Mariota's looking better every game. Dolphins, they got Jai going crazy now, and I see some things here that could be a bit worrisome. But the Browns game should be an easy win. So it'll be interesting because the Chargers defense has done well, has been stopping the run, containing the run, but they're getting beat through the air, and I don't see a lot of outside of Cam Newton and Derek Carr. I don't see a lot of big-time quarterbacks here in the second half of the season. So that could be helpful. And it'll be – what's the word? It's I wouldn't say it's more favorable, but it's possible there.
At least have a better second half than we had first half record-wise. you had mentioned something about, Jake, that you said you haven't seen the Chargers. You've seen only the Chargers beat the Chargers. You have not seen anybody actually beat the Chargers yet. And something happened after the Chargers beat Atlanta. Remember they had that big speech, and Philip Rivers started saying, "Sweat's on the plane, sweat's on the plane, sweat's on the plane." And then Mike McCoy got up there and said, "I'm going to do you something even better. We'll see you all on Wednesday." And when that happened, I swear I should have said something, because I thought, this team really this year hasn't played like a team that should be taking any days off. And I'm not saying that taking an extra day off made them play poorly against Denver, but, do you agree with me? Looks like we just lost Jake. So we'll put this to you, Mikey. Do you agree with me? Do you think that this is a team that maybe should not be taking any more days off? Because it seems like they just are full of mistakes this season, and the same thing happened against Denver. Constant mistakes. Do you think that that they should maybe be coming in on Mondays and Tuesdays instead of taking days off after a win?
Definitely. I definitely think they should. I think, unless he did it just to, see if he can break it up and try something new. But, like you said, they're not a team that really has earned it, because I feel like they haven't played many times they haven't even played the complete game. They already took the fourth quarter off. Why do you get Monday, Tuesday off? And the other thing is, I didn't know you were on the plane, Jason. I didn't know they were cheering for you on the plane.
They were. Little known fact that my nickname is Sweats, but that is funny. They weren't cheering on the plane; they were cheering in the locker room. Sweats on the plane, and maybe that was an invitation for me to join the flight. I didn't even think about that. Man. I think we got Jake back. One of the things I was saying, Jake, was, do you think that Mike McCoy, after the game in Atlanta, gave the team a couple days off and said, "See you on Wednesday"? And I'm thinking, this isn't really a team that's been playing like they can afford to take days off. Do you agree with that? Maybe they shouldn't be taking days off, and they should maybe be in there watching a little bit more film to cut down on some of the mistakes?
Well, you'd have to think that even if you're not in the locker room watching film, these guys have iPads. They have their film portable to them. So, they make film so easily accessible to these guys. So we can't make any type of assumption as to what's happening or what these guys are watching when they're not necessarily in the locker room. I think that's too gray of a situation for us to try to judge.
All right, that's fair enough. I just I don't know, when I saw them taking days off, I don't know. I just thought this is a team that has made way too many mistakes. I don't know. For some reason, it's just been a mistake-filled season, and I think that I'm sure they're addressing it, and I'm sure they're talking about it, and I'm sure that they're they're telling these guys you need to hold on to the ball and all that stuff. But I don't know. I just don't think that they should be taking any time off. Hunter Henry, he got dinged up a couple games ago. He pretty much got shut down against Denver. Injury-wise, is that something we should be concerned about? Do you think he's all the way back? Is this something that's going to linger for a while? What are we going to? What can we see moving forward? I know he's a rookie, so we're going to have some ups and downs. But moving forward, do you think that we're going to be able to get the Hunter Henry that we've been getting really used to loving what we're seeing there, Jake?
We talk about this sometimes earlier on in the season, sometimes midpoint of the season, sometimes late in the season. Know this. There is not one player on this entire team, nor any NFL team in the league, that is 100% right now.
Right.
It does not matter if they play. It does not matter if they practice or not. But there is not one player that is 100% right now. So we have to, like you said, temper expectations with Hunter Henry. Kind of take things as it is. I would rather see somebody, especially from his aspect of what he's provided to this offense thus far, I would rather see him get a chance to rest and become 100% or as close to it as possible, that he can come back and properly contribute to this team. And again, we are talking about the defending Super Bowl champions that shut down Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry was a key cog into how we defeated the Denver Broncos the first time around. So that they were scouting for this. So as far as his overall performance, you could take that with a grain of salt. We know that he's injured. But he's obviously shown the toughness to play through those type of injuries. So hopefully you can get him back into the offense, get him going over these next 2 weeks, then obviously give him a break, get him a chance to recover as much as possible, and hopefully have him produce for the remainder of this year, because what he's shown so far has been fantastic.
Yeah, I agree, and I hope to see him. We want to see the Hunter Henry that played in the first Denver game. We'd like to see him when we play against the Titans. Phillip Rivers, Mikey's boy, Phillip Rivers. A couple games this year. He has, for whatever reason, has had maybe not a very, we'll call it not a very good game. And I think that for whatever reason, this last game against the Broncos was not one of his better games. You can blame it on a lot of things. We can talk about the wide receivers not getting open. We could talk about them tipping balls. We could talk about Griff Whalen running one way while Rivers thought he was going to run the other. The bottom line, I think that at one point he had thrown like 7 or 9 incomplete passes in a row, which is absolutely unheard of from this guy. He always has a really high completion rate. Do you attribute these games, Mikey, to maybe Phillip Rivers? Maybe he's losing it a little bit. I know that you don't like him. Maybe he's losing it a little bit, or do you think that it's basically because of the wide receiving core that he has right now, or some of the players around him right now?
I think there's just a lot of blame to go around. I think Rivers needs to shoulder some of the blame, but you also have to throw some on the offensive line, not be able to protect them. Obviously the receivers not getting open. Obviously again they're second, third string receivers for a reason. The blame can go around elsewhere. I was talking to Juanito from Die Hard Bowl Club, and we're just talking about a big thing that really hurts Phillip Rivers is his inability to be very mobile.
Mm-hmm.
He's very one-dimensional in the pocket kind of guy, and there's blame everywhere, it's just tough. It's tough, and you want to see the offense flow, but that's why I really think we should make Melvin Gordon the focal point of the offense, because it seems to be that's what we're best suited for at this time.
I love that idea, actually, is especially with when you're down all those wide receivers, and Antonio Gates. I'm still waiting to see the Antonio Gates of old, because all we really see is him able to run 2 or 3 yards, catch the ball, and fall down. That's really all he's been able to do this year. Maybe that is the key. Jake, what do you think about the Chargers? Maybe I know that they are trying to get Melvin Gordon involved. They are trying to get him the ball a little bit more. But what do you think about actually making him more of the actual focal point of this offense? Do you think that that's something that they should be trying to do?
Well, you can do it. If he becomes a real focal part of this offense if the Chargers have a lead, and then you can build on that lead and then thus grind down the opposing defense. But the problem here is that, in the situation that the Chargers are in right now, if you are looking at a hypothetical of Travis Benjamin and Tyrell Williams, for whatever reason, possibly being out come Sunday, you have a dinged-up Hunter Henry, you have an aging Antonio Gates. Is really your only offensive weapon going to be Melvin Gordon? Do you not think that Tennessee is going to fully prepare for that? It's obvious that the best part of this offense this year so far has been Melvin Gordon. And the Titans will definitely scout to take the run away and force Phillip Rivers with a depleted wide receiver core to beat them. And that will be their MO. That will be their formula. So I think that the point to get Melvin Gordon more involved in the offense is there. The problem is that the offense will turn the ball over. They'll go 3 and out. They're not able to build a lead to where you can have Melvin Gordon more involved as much as you would want him to do and become the grinder that was essential to the whole plan of bringing the running game back and being able to give your defense a little bit of rest so you can go after quarterbacks more when you have a padded lead. So unfortunately, these scenarios haven't played out yet. The only dominant win that the Chargers have had thus far is against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the rest of the games have been too close, or they've fallen behind, and they've needed to rely on the arm of Phillip Rivers to bring them back and win a couple of these games. I just think as far as situational football goes, the Chargers have just put themselves in unfortunate scenarios to where that's just not an option yet for Melvin Gordon to be a primary option.
Mikey, go for it. What do you got?
Wow, Jake, I was actually going to say quite the opposite. I mean, they've been in the position where they should be running the ball because they've been up and blowing leads. I mean, they've actually been the opposite. I was looking up stats. I mean, the Chargers have thrown the ball 294 times, have run the ball 205 times all year. So, I mean, the opposite should be true because they were leading those games that they blew. That's why we were all going nuts because they blew those games. So I'm not saying that, that he needs to be, the only guy we're going at, but there should be a bigger balance. It should be about 50-50.
Yeah.
And like I said, the way it is we do throw the ball too much, hence what we were talking about this last weekend. And the one game where we actually ran the ball more was the first win at Denver, where the team looked amazing. The offense looked really good. So I think, I'm not obviously, everybody's going to know if you make him the focal point, you're going to stop it. But someone has to be the focal point. And why not let it be the running game and give them a little bit more run? Let them be a more closer to 50-50 split here, especially in these games where you need to establish that run early. So that was I was actually kind of surprised that you mentioned that they would be in the position to throw the ball more when really they've been in the position to run the ball more.
This is how fickle our fan base and us as announcers will be. Because let's go back to Denver real quick and we got the win. That was great. But we didn't like the way that we won. We were standing back going, why do they keep just run, and then pass on third down and keep going 3 and out and keep giving the Broncos the ball back? It's like, why don't they just throw the ball and become more aggressive and keep their foot on the pedal? And now, of course, we're talking about this goal line situation. Why did they pass the ball on these 4 games? They run. Literally, we can't. There's no way to make any of us happy with the way that this offense is going to perform. I'm totally with you, Mikey. I don't think that it should be a more balanced offense. It really should be. And when I was leading up into all of that, I didn't fully agree that Melvin Gordon should be the focal point of this offense unless it's a situation to where you absolutely need him to be if you have a lead. No, I think it should be somebody else. It should be balanced with Phillip Rivers. He's still your best opportunity to win games this team. I'm totally with you from the standpoint of, yes, it should be balanced, but as far as utilizing Melvin Gordon more, I think that should really only come out when you're not playing from behind and when you do have a lead, and then you could just grind the clock down and hopefully get these games behind you with a W.
Let it be said that Mikey's brother from another mother, Hal, has joined us in the chat room.
Yes. At this point, this is my obligatory screw Phillip Rivers comment time. Go ahead.
So Hal's excited. One thing that I will and I know Hal likes to blame it on Phillip Rivers. He calls him. He says the team will never win the Super Bowl under a pass-happy Phillip Rivers. I still think that ultimately he's not the one out there calling the passes. I know that you say he can audible and he can change the play at the line, but the bottom line is he's out there. Most of the changing he is making, most of the audibles he's making are protection calls. He's not changing from run to pass or pass to run very often. And another thing is he has to make the best play with the personnel that he's given out there. He can't audibilize and have somebody run off the field and have somebody else run on the field. So I think that like I said at the beginning, I don't like when we quit. Jake even said, if they run the ball and it's not working, everybody's screaming, why aren't they passing? And if they're passing the ball and it's not working, everybody's screaming, why aren't they running? I don't like to second guess the play calls. I really don't. But I would like to see a little bit more balance. I wouldn't mind seeing us run the ball on 3rd and 3. Even if we don't get a first down, it would be nice to see us run the ball. It seems like no matter what on 3rd down, unless it's 3rd and 1, we're passing the ball. And I think we need to maybe mix a little bit more running in there. Jake, do you agree with that? Do you think we just are a little bit too predictable on 3rd down?
No, I don't necessarily say it's... No, you're more predictable on 1st down is what this team is. They always run the ball on 1st down. That's definitely predictable. But I think this, you compare a 3rd and 3 or a 3rd and 1 situation. Let's compare it to the goal line scenario. Mm-hmm. This is where coaches try to do this thing where they're trying to outthink the defense that's going to outthink their move, and you start outthinking yourself as far as a coaching-wise goes. Everybody would think that Denver would be preparing for the run on a first and goal off the 2 scenario, so why don't we start throwing the ball to probably catch them off guard, rather than just do the logical thing and run the ball.
Yeah.
I never understand this whole aspect of coaches trying to be, tricky against other defenses and trying to psych them out of their element. When you're in situations like that, there is no room for trickeration. If you can't power an individual 1 or 2 yards, then your offense is a complete failure. If you really can't gain that amount of yardage and just being straightforward and just say, hey, we're going to run the ball in this play and there's nothing that you can do to stop us and we're still going to get the yards, that's how you make a statement. You don't make the statements by some of these trickeration plays and trying to outfool people, especially when you're talking about a goal-to-go situation.
Yeah, I think who's the coach for Atlanta, Jake? Do you know? I can't do his name.
That's Quinn, Dan Quinn.
Yeah, Dan Quinn.
Okay, well, so I can't remember if it was against the Chargers or the other game or their game this last week. They had a same thing, goal to go, with and first and goal like at the 2, and I thought for sure you're gonna see something Julio Jones. They're gonna throw something his way. No, man, he went 3 straight runs with Devontae Freeman, like a little guy, and that's just like you said, not getting cute, just doing it. And like I agree with Jason said earlier today that you got to be able to, you got to think, man, if you quarterback a sneak 4 times, you're going to get 1 yard every single time, so, you're only 2 away, so you got to do that twice. So, yeah, definitely you just got to, just man up, push it up, get the line to push and get in there, Yeah,
mm-hmm. I agree, especially with the center that we have right now. We have a center. The Chargers have a center that actually can play. You got to think that, and I know for some reason, you got all these different schools of thought about the quarterback running a quarterback sneak. I don't know if I've ever seen Phillip Rivers run a quarterback sneak. I'm not saying he hasn't because I might have forgotten, but
he has done it for years.
I can't remember. I was trying to think about that when they lined up after that was a failure. I was thinking, every time on like 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 and stuff, we always hand the ball off. But I mean, we could have even let them know, hey, we're gonna line up Melvin Gordon under center and we're gonna sneak it 4 times. And I gotta think that we could get 2 yards. It's and I like what you said, Jake. Almost overthinking it, trying to get too cute, trying to outthink the other team, trying to out-trick the other team, But the bottom line is our personnel is what gave away what we were going to do. We brought that personnel in, and they said, great, we're just going to blitz, and there ain't nothing you guys can do. You're going to have to beat us one-on-one, knowing that our wide receivers weren't capable of doing that. And that does fall on, Wisenhunt. He's the one out there. People scream at McCoy all the time. Wisenhunt's the one out there making those calls. First of all, am I right on that, Jake? I mean, McCoy's not out there saying, hey, make sure you throw the ball 4 times now, is he?
Well, no. I mean, again, they both shoulder the blame. And here's another thing that we kind of glanced over when we opened up this, the whole show tonight when we were talking about the goal-to-go scenario. They still had 3 timeouts. The clock was not against them. Anytime that you saw something that could have been done differently, call a timeout and have the time to get different personnel in. Matt Slauson was talking about for as long as it was taking to get the plays into the huddle, by the time it comes down to Phillip Rivers actually snapping the ball, I mean, he's barely getting it off before time expires. So the clock management on top of everything else is also a weak point, and that goes back to coaching as well. And both McCoy and Wisenhunt have to shoulder blame for this because, again, situational football is practiced week in and week out for these type of aspects. And clock management, which I don't understand why, but it seems like it's a consistent thing that comes back to really haunt the team every now and again. It will rear its ugly head. And you mean to tell me when you have all your timeouts for a change in the 4th quarter of a game and in a scenario where you've now, let's just say the Chargers threw it twice on their first 2 downs. Mm-hmm. You still got 2 downs to go. And you're planning on throwing it again, and you possibly want to say, hey, let's just take an extra 30 seconds and let's figure something out here. We couldn't even call a timeout?
Yeah.
I mean, what is that about? If that is the case, then, I mean, here's where it's the advantage of the because you still have to, in some way or another, keep the defense honest. So even if you run it the first 2 times and you don't end up getting into the end zone, at least now you've shown your hand to where you could possibly be a little bit more versatile. Because if you get into a type of situation to where now you've thrown 3 times and you haven't gotten into the end zone, all of a sudden you're really limiting your options. And the defense is able to predict what you're going to be doing much more than it would have 3 plays ago. So again, it's just a standpoint of, like you said, trying to be too cute. Yes, it's blame for McCoy and Wisenhunt all around on multiple facets of not only the play calling but time management as well.
You know, that's another good thing. You talk about time management, and everybody hears the word time management, and they're thinking about when you call timeouts and that type of stuff. But, you know, one of the things that, you know, the Chargers as an offense, they do put a lot on Phillip Rivers, which they should, because he's like having another coach out there. He's very smart. He's very, very good at his job. The problem is, with all of the things he has to do, it does seem like they always seem to get the play call in a little bit late, and it looks like Phillip Rivers is clapping his hands for the snap almost every single time. Now, is that on them getting the play in too late, or is that on Phillip Rivers doing too much at the line, Jake? It seems to me like by the time they get lined up, he's got enough time to maybe make one little check, one little coverage check, and then ultimately they got to snap that ball. Is that on Phillip Rivers, or is that on them getting the play to him too late?
Well, Jason, you said that the most reasons of why Phillip Rivers, what he's calling at the line is for mostly protection reasons. Okay, so why do you think that is?
Because the protection call that they called in there is not correct for the defense that's out there.
Right, but more or less, why do you think that it goes a little bit deeper than that? Do you think that there is an aspect of not having so much confidence in people doing what it is that they're supposed to be doing?
Yeah, I think that is it, and I think that he's a perfectionist, and I think that he, I'm trying to not put him too much on a pedestal, because I know we do that a lot, but ultimately he's very, very good at what he does. He knows exactly where everybody's supposed to be. That's why when he throws the ball and he's out there yelling and screaming, I think he's frustrated because I think he puts a lot of time and a lot of effort into knowing exactly where everybody's supposed to be, and maybe other players on the team aren't making that same commitment as he is, and it's frustrating to him. And he has to line everybody up and stuff, and maybe that's one of the problems with this team. Maybe not everybody is working as hard maybe in the film room or studying as him. What are your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's a lack of effort, but it's a lack of preparation and just continuous mistakes. Because you're absolutely right. How many times is Phillip Rivers barely getting the ball off before that clock hits triple digits? And whatever it might be, whether it's not getting the play calling in soon enough, or you're calling certain protections, or whatever it is, that's going to happen for every quarterback. They're gonna see something in the defense that's going to change it around, and maybe that's the formula that people have come to figure out about Phillip Rivers. That it's similar to how defenses would prepare for Peyton Manning, similar to how we would prepare for Peyton Manning, to where you don't entirely show your hand as far as how many people you're actually bringing at him. But even still, I love the fact that Phillip Rivers is a perfectionist. I honestly do, because that's what has made him into the quarterback that he is. I think that certain people, not everybody, follows the same type of preparation and effort regimen that he does. But again, I think that's also from a lack of personnel production that has been around him. I won't name names, but if we're going to talk about certain people that are in front of him for 5 certain individuals, then there are some people that can definitely be exploited in that. Mm-hmm. Phillip, of course, is never going to throw any one of his teammates under the bus, but it's you'd have to think that there's a little bit, especially after getting hit as much as he did in this last game, that there was just a little bit of confidence. And of course, like quarterback, he's going to get happy feet after getting pressured that many times. That's going to become natural to anybody. So the performance from Phillip Rivers is then going to dip, and it's going to be just cause and effect.
Mikey, I know that we lost it for a few seconds there during that talk, but one of the things that we were basically talking about is the fact that Phillip Rivers has to clap his hands and scream for the snap on every single play. And part of that is because he's spending all this time calling out protections because maybe the wrong call was brought in there, but maybe because the other players around him don't quite understand what their job is on every play. Do you think that that's an issue, or do you think that it's I know Hal thinks it's Phillip Rivers out there maybe just being demonstrative, but do you think that there's something to that? Do you think that maybe there's too much for him to do on each play because of the personnel around him?
If Hal thinks so, then I agree with Hal.
Hal's gone, by the way. He had to go.
Oh, okay, never mind. I don't know. It's one of those things. Like, is it? Like, I've even thought maybe he doesn't trust the coaching. Like I just don't know. I just don't really know. It seems like, I can't tell, honestly, guys. I'd love to be able to say and just blame it on Rivers or not blame it on him, but I really can't tell. It's one of those things that I've tried to wrap my head around it. Like, you see certain things, you see stuff like that, like where he's getting the ball like late every play, he's always clapping his hands. You're like, where's that coming from? And I really wish I could tell. I wish I could tell because it would be a lot easier to figure out what's going on with this team if we could. But obviously there's communication issues somewhere, and I think that's really hurting offensively. And it's a lot harder on offense because, like you said, you have to call out protections. You have to, it's like a game of chess that the defense can flip on you really quick because the defense has maybe 2 or 3 different defenses that they're ready to play against you depending on what you call. So it's tough, and again, I don't know. I really don't know what it's really all about.
The last thing that I'll say about that is, we talk about how maybe he needs to call out protections. He needs to help the offensive line because the 5 guys in front of him maybe aren't quite doing the job that they should do. But in essence, when you're going against a guy like Von Miller and you're going against these great defensive ends, and then you have to clap your hands for the snap. That the clock's running down, they're getting that half-second jump because they know exactly when the snap's going to come. There's no fooling, there's no hard count, there's no nothing, and you're spending all this time to get your offensive linemen on the same page, and then you're doing them a disservice by snapping the ball so late and giving the defense a chance to get a jump on the ball. So maybe all of this stuff he's doing, Jake, maybe he's actually hurting, his offensive line instead of helping them.
Who knows who it could be? I mean, you're talking about protections, yeah, but that's also the duty of the center.
Yeah,
that's also the duty of Matt Slauson to make sure that the protections are right as well. So it does not just fall on the hands of Phillip Rivers. He's not the only guy that should be out there making sure that they protect himself or his backside out there. And again, we could stand here all day and from a outsider's perspective say how easy it is to just go out there, do your job, practice, prepare, all this type of stuff. But again, it's situational type of football. And you're playing against another human being who has a different goal in mind as far as what their objective is in terms of getting to the quarterback. And some people or another just, I've already said my 2 cents on a certain individual for this offensive line earlier today, and I still stand by it. Unfortunately, I do. When I see that type of play, it's just unfortunate. It really is. And it's not just from the last game. It's from just unfortunate play that I've seen from him over the last couple of years. And that's where you can start that's where you can start trickling into the effect of blaming the higher ups in the organization of saying, let's recognize this problem. We have our franchise quarterback that we're trying to protect, that we're trying to give the best situation to win. It does not just mean by putting utility players around him, you still have to protect him.
Right.
And so, again, it's a huge cause and effect thing from when you see the play of the way it deteriorates from one player to another, from the coaching staff to the players, from the GM standpoint of the players that are on the field. I mean, it's a vicious circle. And this is unfortunately what we've had to go through over these last couple of years. And the offensive line, granted, has been decimated by injuries over the last couple of years and has not been properly reinforced. And, that's just what we have to deal with on this team. And Phillip Rivers is trying to do the best that he can to win with what he has around him right now. And we've said it numerous times. We feel bad for Phillip Rivers in the situation that he has been put in for the people that he's got around him. Maybe Mikey doesn't, which he clearly doesn't, from what I can see from his face right now. But personally, I feel bad. I do. I do feel bad for the fact of, and we see it different because we're here. We're in San Diego. We get to watch this team more than anybody else. So we would think just off the talent alone that, we'd be able to perform better out there on the field. But when this seems like it's been a constant problem now, ever since Chris Dealman started leaving, ever since we lost Marcus McNeil, you go back for years, and this offensive line was still properly not reinforced, and the focus was not there to protect your investment in your quarterback.
By the way, for anybody who's with us still and they've got the baseball game on mute, the Cleveland Indians just hit a 2-run bomb off of Aroldis Chapman to tie the game.
Holy wow!
No,
they did.
Oh, good God!
So now it's 6-6 in the 8th inning. Aroldis Chapman has given up 3 runs. Or at least 3 runs have scored while he is on the mound.
Shouldn't have played him last night.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I don't know why they even put him in the game last night with such a big lead. The last thing that we'll talk about before we go today is, the Chargers are decimated in the linebackers. They're decimated everywhere. But they did sign Jeremy Butler. He's 6'2", 213. If Justin was here, he'd have a big grin on his face because he likes tall guys. Maybe that's because he's short like me, so maybe he. But Jeremy Butler, I think he played for the Jets and maybe one other team. Jake, do you know anything about this guy? And is there any chance that he's going to be active this weekend?
He'll probably have to be active this weekend. I think the Chargers really have a choice. The only things that I've actually heard about this kid is how Phillip Rivers has said that he definitely has a feel for the game. Other than that, I don't recall where he got his yardage from for the duration that he has been in the NFL. I've personally never seen him make any type of plays on the field. I don't know if anybody else has, especially you guys. I mean, I know how much we watch football, but this is just one of those type of scenarios where it could be literally the unknown that's walking out onto the field for the Chargers, and hopefully. The one advantage that Phillip Rivers has with a new wide receiver now is that nobody has any film on him for what he can do in this offense. So you may actually be able to, get someone caught off guard for how to cover him, because there really shouldn't be any more than single coverage on this wide receiver for this game coming up against Tennessee.
Yeah, I agree. I might as well activate him. With knee injuries that linger, or all injuries that linger on this team, I say activate him. And you're right, there is no real tape on the guy, and there certainly isn't any tape on him against with Phillip Rivers as his quarterback. So I say activate him and see what happens. Ultimately, season's halfway over. I want to remind all of you Charger fans out there, it's maybe been a little bit of a frustrating season, but just remember, we only get 16 of these precious things every single year, and 8 of them are already gone this season. So let's try and enjoy the second half of the season. Let's try and enjoy the 8 more regular season games we're going to get. Mikey, do you have anything else that before I wrap things up, anything else that you want to talk about Charger-wise?
No, actually, that's it, guys. I think we've hit it all pretty well, and we'll see Sunday. We save everything else for Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake, anything else that you want to add? You have any articles? Or I know you can, for those of you who have been listening, if you don't know already, you can find Jake at boltbeat.com. He's writing articles for there. Not just him, but there's a whole team of writers there writing a bunch of really, really cool stuff. You can follow him on Twitter at Jake T. Hefner. He was intermingling on Twitter today with people sending him questions. Anything else that you want to add, Jake, before we wrap things up this week?
Draft mode, baby.
Oh, no.
Draft mode, baby.
We can't...
To be really honest, the only football that I am excited in San Diego right now is watching Pumphrey do what he is doing right now, because it's nothing short of spectacular, and I'm so happy that the national media is finally starting to give him some recognition. I mean, it's been way too long, even for the course of the season, that people are starting to recognize. But got a very, very good plug from
Scott Van Pelt.
Yes, that was a fantastic plug on him for every reason in the world. about why he should be taking a trip to New York in Heisman consideration. So I love what I've seen from Darnell. I hope that he is able to eclipse Ron Dane's all-time record by the end of this season. I know that's not going to be an easy stretch whatsoever, but, go San Diego State.
I'm so happy that you brought that up, by the way. Mikey, how frustrating has it been, the fact that every time you see ESPN post their Heisman Watch, or every time you see that little ticker at the bottom saying Heisman Watch, they never show anything about Pumphrey, and they're finally starting to maybe touch on it a little bit. But is it East Coast biased? Is it the fact that San Diego State has not a great schedule? What's the reasoning here?
All the above, really. All the above. I mean, I don't know if you've seen on Twitter, they have like 4 guys vote for so-and-so. I think Deshaun Watson's one of them, and that guy's had horrible games, like 3 or 4 horrible games, or at least not Heisman-worthy games, So that's ridiculous. And Pumphrey has had every game has been awesome. His one game he had a bad game was, I think, the first one he rushed for like 130 or something like that.
Yeah, that was his bad game.
That was his bad game. So it's ridiculous. It's all the above. Not a power conference, West Coast, bad schedule. All these things. But again, it's just ridiculous, and it's nice to see him get the pub. Obviously, it's good to see anytime San Diego State gets the pub. It's good for the school. It's good for him, and if he can make it out to New York, I mean, it would be great. I don't see him slowing down in conference play, and the Aztecs are one Western Michigan loss, and if they can win out, they're going to the Cotton Bowl most likely. So, that could be big for them, for the program as well.
Yeah, that could be big, and unfortunately, I unless he's rushing for 300 yards a game the rest of the year, I got to think that there's no, he can get into the conversation, but I don't think you can find enough votes for him for the Heisman. Do you agree with that, or do you think that there's still a chance?
I just want to get there. I just want to get to New York. I don't even care if he wins it. Obviously, I don't think he'll ever win it. If Marshall Faulk couldn't win it, who was killing records in 3 years, then he's not winning it. But I mean, just getting into New York would be huge. Seeing him in New York, doing all the little media things. San Diego State would be there. Just his
presence being
his
there.
attendance, his presence will just do so much for the school and for him as well. And it's huge to see Pumphrey out there. And like I said, we'll see how it goes. We've got 2 home games left, 4 games before the conference championship. So, like you said, you gotta win those.
That's a good call, Jake. So much. Thanks for so much for bringing that up, because that is a good call, and it is nice that he's at least getting mentioned. You gonna be available to join us Sunday morning, you think, Jake?
Yeah, should be available at 9 a.m. when you guys go on the air, for sure.
Awesome. Want to invite everybody out there this Sunday and every Sunday before the Chargers game, 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Pre-game show. It's lots of fun. It moves real fast. It's just 1 hour. We will be previewing the Chargers versus the Titans. The first game of the 8-game winning streak in the second half of the season for the Chargers, of course. Until
Greg's
then,
kid about predictions.
Yeah.
Why don't we say this? Why don't we just be in agreement that we play the next game like it's the next game, and we will thus forth play every game the way it is as the next game, and take that on a week-by-week basis.
That's a good call. Last time you made a suggestion for us, by the way, the Chargers won 2 games in a row. So maybe that's a good idea, because we went to...
Yeah, what we stopped doing was we stopped predicting who the player of the game was going to be.
Nah, we started predicting who the injury of the game was going to be. And it started turning things around. I want to thank you guys for joining us. Jake Hefner, you can follow him at Jake T. Hefner. Mike Maciejewski, you can follow him at Mikey_AHN. Thanks a lot, guys. It's been a lot of fun, and we look forward to Sunday morning, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Definitely.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans by the fans. Brought to you by Cali Comfort, home of the low and slow barbecue, and SK Digital Imaging with Josh Taylor, Justin Smead, Jason Eidsmoe, and Mike Maciejewski. Subscribe to us on iHeartRadio, on Spreaker, and on iTunes. Visit SanDiegoSportsJunkies.com for all your Chargers, Padres, and Aztecs news.